to control absolutely everybody up and down the chain of command. It's likely to hold here, at least for a while, in Lebanon, because you got the Lebanese government behind it. And you've got Iran, who really wants out of this cycle of violence. They're behind it as well. So we might have other incidents like this, but by and large, it's likely to hold at least long enough for the combatants to withdraw as planned, Anna.
You sound optimistic. That is good to hear. As always in the Middle East, though, it's a tinderbox. The situation could be fragile. What are you watching for next?
Well, the folks to keep an eye on is Iran. They're the linchpin here. They're vitally important to the existence of Hezbollah, to what Hezbollah does. They're a proxy, and they carry out what Iran likes to carry out in the region. So if we keep an eye on Iran, we'll know what's going to happen here. We have to keep something in mind. The last time Israel was in Lebanon and there was a ceasefire was 2006. The ceasefire lasted quite a long time, but was not forever. So it's important to keep an eye on Iran, see what they do, see how they support Hezbollah, and hear what they say. That'll give us an idea whether or not this ceasefire will hold over a long period of time, Anna.
Okay, Colonel Jack Jacobs, thank you so much for being there for us and helping us understand the dynamics at play. Matt, you've been doing some extensive reporting on the village of Muhabib in southern Lebanon. It was literally blown up off the map in a series of coordinated explosions. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the stories that really is the story of Lebanon. And some of the characters that you're going to meet in this report are the characters of Lebanon. This kind of defines what we're seeing right now, what I saw in Dahi, as I mentioned earlier today. People going back to their homes, desperate to return to normal lives, lives that for many no longer exist. Here's our report. On October 16th, Israeli forces released dramatic footage of their units detonating explosives in Muhabib, a small village in southern Lebanon.
تحكي لي اختي الثانيه كانت عم تبكي عمل لها شو في قالت لي ما شفت التليفون.
Fatima and Zainab Jabber are sisters from Muhabib who evacuated at the start of the war. They learned of their hometown's destruction on social media.
أنا الفيديو بوقتها مترابط معي مع صوت زنوبة عم تصرخ. زنوبة عم تصرخ وفلت من الغرفة بقيت أنا يعني بتذكر إيدي هيك صاروا يعملوا مش فهمانين شو صار.
An IDF spokesperson told NBC News that the goal of the invasion has been to dismantle Hezbollah's military capabilities and address the threat Hezbollah poses to Israeli citizens. They've claimed to have limited goals for the invasion of southern Lebanon, but an NBC News investigation found that wherever Israeli troops have tread, they've left behind massive destruction and desolation. The IDF occupied towns like Muhabib and demolished them, creating an uninhabitable zone along Lebanon's border with Israel. In Muhabib, the IDF says they were destroying underground tunnels once used by Hezbollah.
خسرنا يعني أنت عم تقول بيتك راح يعني تعبك شغلك حياتك أحلامك ذكرياتك كله راح.
This is what Muhabib looked like before. It was home to about 250 residents and was the site of an ancient shrine that drew religious pilgrims and visitors.
وأغلبية المقيمين فيها من عائلتي من عائلة جابر، فأنت عم تمشي بمكان كأنه بيت كبير، كيف ما برمت، كيف ما رحت، كيف ما جيت، عمتك، خالتك،
Hezbollah began firing missiles into Israel a day after Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023. The Jabber sisters are among 1.4 million Lebanese displaced from their homes in the exchange of fire over the course of the following year. On September 30th, 2024, the IDF announced it would escalate the conflict by invading southern Lebanon. At the time it was destroyed, Muhabib, located just a few miles from the border with Israel, was empty. The town was one of dozens that Israeli Defense Forces ordered to fully evacuate as it invaded southern Lebanon throughout October. The IDF captured and occupied Muhabib, enabling an IDF combat engineering unit to plant explosives in the town. In this video, Israeli soldiers can be seen watching and celebrating the demolition from a safe distance. Satellite imagery from before and after the detonation shows little remains of the village of Mahaybib. The 2,000-year-old shrine to the prophet Benjamin in the town was also destroyed. Researchers from City University of New York and the University of Oregon are using satellite radar data to detect damaged buildings in Lebanon to assess the impact of the conflict. Since the start of the conflict, they've identified over 12,000 destroyed or damaged buildings. NBC News analyzed this data, along with data on IDF troop movements, and found that in the area the IDF captured along the border, more than 5,600 buildings have been damaged or destroyed, 42% of all buildings in this area. In many villages, the destruction is total. 86% of the buildings in Mahaybib have been demolished. Satellite images of southern Lebanese towns give a fuller picture of how the IDF has made them uninhabitable. This October 5th satellite image of Yaroun shows armored vehicle tracks crossing the border from Israel and entering the town. Here you can see those IDF vehicles adjacent to a raised section of the town. And here, there are visible signs of bulldozing. By the end of the month, satellite radar data shows 62% of the town, once home to 2,000 people, has been destroyed. NBC verified videos posted to social media of IDF demolitions in nearly every town the IDF occupied in southern Lebanon. These videos show the destruction of mosques, large groupings of homes, and entire neighborhoods. This demolition took place in a border village called Ramyeh. By early November, 67% of Ramyeh's buildings had been destroyed. Influential members of the Israeli military and government have advocated for creating a depopulated buffer zone in southern Lebanon, but the IDF hasn't said this was the goal of their invasion of Lebanon.
In this house, a storage, vests, helmets. You see the hand grenades here?
In a statement to NBC News, an IDF spokesperson said it doesn't aim to cause excessive damage to civilian infrastructure, but Hezbollah embeds military assets in and beneath civilian areas and cultural sites.
Explosive RPGs here.
Now, residents like the Jabber sisters have learned there's nothing left to return to.
يعني ما بعرف شو الهدف من التفجير غير انه هو خراب وينكر انك كنت موجود هون. بس نحن كل حياتنا فوق، يعني نحن كل شيء، كل تفصيل بحياتنا هو موجود فوق. أنا فوق، أنا بعرف شكون إلا فوق.
And Anna, as you saw there, you know, the war seems to be over, the 2 months long offensive by the Israelis against Hezbollah, if this truce holds. But for many people, like the Jabber sisters, like the relatives of the nearly 4,000 people who were killed in the last more than year of fighting, and for the 1.2 estimated 1 million people who were displaced by this war, this latest conflict is really just beginning. They have to figure out what to do with the rest of their lives that have been forever seared by the events of the past couple of months. Anna?
Matt Bradley, great reporting. Thank you very much for shining light. And now I want to take you to President Biden. He is on the move in Nantucket and made a stop just now at a local firehouse. Let's listen in.
Long stage. And I'm really happy they're home. I got to talk to them all when they landed in Alaska. They've been reunited with their families, and I was very happy to be able to get it done.
Any thoughts on tariffs in Canada and Mexico that the president-elect is talking about?
I hope he rethinks it. I think it's a counterproductive thing to do. You know, look, one of the things you've heard me say before that we have an unusual situation in America. We're surrounded by the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and 2 allies, Mexico and Canada. And the last thing we need to do is begin to screw up those relationships. I think we've got them in a good place. think by the way, you know, the cooperation with the outgoing president and the incoming president, the illegal crossings are down considerably to what they were back when he was in office. There's a lot more to do, but I just think, I hope they reconsider. We have reached a relationship with a status quo ante with regard to China. China we've set up a hotline between President Xi and myself, as well as through our military, direct line. One thing I'm confident about Xi is he doesn't want to make a mistake. And I mean it sincerely. And I'm not saying that he is our best buddy, but he understands what's at stake. And that's why I've spent so much time, as you know, getting the situation in the South Pacific as well as in the Indian Ocean in train. So a combination of Japan, Australia, India, I mean, things are moving in the right direction. The grace of God and good of the neighbors. One last question.
Mr. President, there are many Americans who are worried about the future this holiday season. What is your message to them?
My message is to just remember who we are. Look, you all have a very tough job, and I'm not being solicitous. A really tough job. Think about it. I remember a couple weeks ago the survey done, how do people feel about where they are? It was 62%, 35% thought they were doing pretty well. What do they think about the direction of the country? 35%, only 35% are so far moving in the right direction. I think there's an explanation for that. If you think about it. It's not a criticism of the press, I mean this, you know me too well, is that you turn on the television, you don't see a lot of good news. Even the stuff that is good news doesn't seem to sell very well. And so when you turn on the TV, everything looks bad. Everything looks bad. And now you have, I forget what the number is, but an exceedingly small number of people watching mainstream television and reading the newspapers. I forget the number, but you know better than I would. And they're way down. So where do you get your news? And how do you know what you're getting is not just what you're looking for as opposed to what's happening? Not because of you. I'm not being critical of the press. I've talked to too many of you privately. You've been around a long time. And you've got a hell of a job. I mean, you know, anyway, I don't think... I want to make sure this transition goes smoothly. I want to make sure it goes smoothly. And all the talk about what he's going to do and not do, I think there may be a little bit of internal reckoning on his part, what he is going to do. So it remains to be seen. And the Congress is so razor thin across the board. It's going to be, I think it's going to require what usually happens in these cases, some real compromise. But we'll see. We'll see. And on Thanksgiving, I'm hopeful. Thank you so much.
Again, that was President Biden delivering those comments live in Nantucket, making this stop at a firehouse on Thanksgiving morning. He talked about the U.S.-China prisoner swap that happened about 24 hours ago. He also spoke about President-elect Trump's tariff threats to Mexico and Canada and China. Let's go to Mike Memoli, who's